Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, Bundesliga Show Matchday prediction / fantasy show that we've got going on now on a Thursday. Welcome back, Rune, and welcome back, Mark. This is probably the first time all three of us have been on a Thursday show for quite a while, actually. So good that we're all here. We've got half an hour show for you all this evening, so not going to go into too much detail, so we're going to pretty much get straight into business. What we'll do is we'll go straight into our predictions for match week 6 and see what we are going to think about all those games, and then the rest of the show will, of course, focus on fantasy football, and we'll kind of throw questions that we want at Rune, and if we get any in the live comments as well, we can try and ferry them onto Rune with regards to getting your best fantasy Bundesliga team out there on the pitch. I'm sure me and Mark need to listen very carefully. Let's crack on with the predictions. Just before we do, let's remind ourselves of the scores on the doors. Again, this is a moment, it's just me versus Mark, but like I said, we do need to get you in, Rune. So I'll maybe start trying to add your name into this and get us involved. But after Mark rushed into a 2-0 lead, it's now 3-2 to me. So I'm in good form. Yeah, I won last week, so it's all good. Charging ahead with this week's prediction. So let's crack on straight away with this. So first game of match week 6. It's going to be Fürth hosting champions Bayern Munich. Doesn't take an awful lot of guessing what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for an away win. I'm saying 5-1. I think Fürth, I'd be happy if they scored a goal, basically. So, yeah, 5-1 to me. The champions just got too much quality, haven't they? So, Mark, quickly on to yourself for this one.
Yeah, I've also gone for a 5-1, actually. I think the only surprise there is that I've gone for Fürth to score 1 goal. I just think Bayern, they don't keep many clean sheets on the road, do they, really? So away from home, I always fancy teams to score against Bayern. So, yeah, I've gone for 5-1 and a famous Fürth consolation.
And, yeah, Rune, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I've gone for a 4-0 win for Bayern. Even though they might choose to rest a few players, I just think that that would be too much difference between the two sides. So, yeah, a clear away win.
Good stuff. So that's obviously Friday night's game. So on Saturday afternoon, RB Leipzig hosting Hertha Berlin. I think despite the good results that Hertha have had in the last few weeks, obviously mainly because they've been against promoted sides, I think Leipzig may take out a bit of frustration on them. So I'm saying 3-1 home win for me. Mark, what do you reckon to this one?
Yeah, I've gone for 2-1 to Leipzig. I just think Leipzig have got to win this game at the end of the day. Isn't around anymore. I don't think it'll be easy because they've not been in great form by any means, but I think they'll get the win 2-1 Leipzig.
Stuff. And yeah, Rune?
Yeah, I've gone for a 3-0 win for Leipzig, actually. I don't think Hertha have looked that impressive despite winning their most recent games. And yeah, obviously Leipzig have struggled a bit too, but I think they've done better than what their points tally suggests. So I think they'll win this pretty clearly.
Good stuff. Next game, quite a tricky one. It's still winless Frankfurt hosting FC Köln. Again, probably the way that you look at it is that Köln might be favourites for this, given the way that they've been playing. But the talent that Frankfurt have leads me to kind of level things up. So I'm just going to sit on the fence and say 1-1 for this one, and Frankfurt to remain winless in the Bundesliga. So yeah, Mark, over to you.
Yeah, this was a hard one for me because I was thinking on the same lines as you, Rory, that Köln are definitely in much better form. Frankfurt haven't really impressed under Glasner at all. Even in the draw last week against Wolfsburg, they were very much defensive, and I thought they were second best for most of the game. I've actually gone for them to get the win, though. I just think they've got to win sooner rather than later for me, Frankfurt. And I think obviously they've only lost 1 game, but I've gone for a 2-1 home win, actually.
Interesting. Rune, which way are you going?
Yeah, I've gone for a 1-1 draw as well. As you guys said, Frankfurt have struggled and Köln have played really well, and they're a really tough team to play against. They're a really tough team to beat, I think. So a 1-1 draw. I think both sides will be able to accept that.
Interesting stuff. Another afternoon game on the Saturday is Leverkusen hosting Mainz. Again, two teams who have had very impressive starts to the season. I'm just going to edge to the home team based on maybe what they've got going forward just about, and the fact that they're at home. Good start will, I think, continue for Leverkusen. 2-1 for me. Mark?
Yeah, I've gone the other way now. I've gone for a draw in this one, actually. Yeah, I just really like Mainz under Bo Svensson. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of him. I just really like the team. They should have won last week, probably 2-0 really against Freiburg. I thought sometimes you don't win those games, against a resolute Freiburg side. But I just think that they'll cause the back line of Leverkusen problems for me. As good as Leverkusen are going forward, they're still not the best defensive team in the world, are they? Let's be honest. So for me, there will be goals in this game. I've gone for 2-2 in this one.
Excellent. And Rune, what do you reckon to this one?
Yeah, I actually agree with both of you, but I've gone for a 2-1 win for Leverkusen, like you, Rory. I think
you always go the same. It was the same last
year. For some reason, but yeah, I also agree with what you said, Mark. I mean, Mainz are a really tough side to play against, and as you said, they should have beaten Freiburg last time around. They also beat Leipzig earlier this season in like a similar game. So, but with the quality Leverkusen have and the fact that they're in great form, I still think that they will take a narrow win here.
Good stuff. Moving on, we've got Union Berlin hosting Bielefeld. Obviously, neither team have got off to amazing starts, but have both been solid enough. Bielefeld obviously keep on getting draws. I think given the fact that there's not been any European games this week, Union may well target this one as a game that they would really like to win. So based on that fact and just the theory I've made up in my head, I'm saying 2-0 to the home side.
Yeah, I've gone the same as you on this one, Rory. I agree that I think obviously Union, they've not had a bad start, but they've only got 1 win from 5, and they don't want to go 1 win from 6, especially after not beating Augsburg at home in the last home game. They want to get a win in this one. I agree that they've just got a little bit too much quality up top for Bielefeld. I think 2-0 there for the home side.
Good stuff. Rune, you going to make it 3 out of 3, or are you going to disagree this time?
I've gone for a 1-0 win for Union this one. I think Bielefeld will probably be happy with the draw, so it all depends on whether Union will be able to open up that defense. And I think it could be a similar game to the 0-0 draw with Augsburg a few weeks ago, and a game they could have won with a little more luck. So if they have the luck this time, then I think they can win with a late goal.
Good stuff. The last afternoon game on the Saturday then is Hoffenheim hosting Wolfsburg. Hoffenheim have just flattered to deceive, haven't they, really? I had my hopes up for Hoffenheim early doors, but the results haven't really come through. And Wolfsburg have been ultimately really solid under Van Bommel. So I'm going to go with a very narrow 2-1 away win to Wolfsburg. Mark, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's quite a tough one because I remember that Hoffenheim beat Wolfsburg at home last year when Wolfsburg were on really, really good form as well. So I was a little bit reluctant to tip the away side because I tend to find that teams often struggle against the same teams, if you know what I mean. But yeah. I agree with. I just think Wolfsburg, they probably should have got the win last week against Frankfurt, and I think they will back it up with a narrow win this time. I've also gone for 2-1 to the away side.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, Rune?
Yeah, I've gone for a 1-0 win to the away side. I think Hoffenheim have been quite disappointing since international break. Wolfsburg, on the other hand, have looked very solid since the start of the season, without scoring a lot of goals, but maintaining the defensive solidity they showed last season. So for me, a 1-0 win would be a logical result here.
Absolutely. Moving on to Saturday's evening game, promises to be probably quite an open game and promises goals. Gladbach hosting Dortmund. Obviously, you never know what Gladbach throw up. They usually semi-turn up to the big games, I'd like to say. So I'm expecting them to play better than they have done lately, but I just can't see them on this current form challenging Dortmund too much. So with that said, I'm going to say a high-scoring game where Dortmund come out on top 4-2.
Yeah, great minds think alike, it seems, Rory, because I went down the same path. I just think Dortmund, as long as Gladbach even have the ball in Dortmund's half, they'll get goals because we know that Dortmund just can't keep teams out. We saw it with Union last week where Union didn't really do much at all, did they? But still ended up going away with 2 goals. So for me, Gladbach have got to score, surely. But at the same time, I just think Dortmund look electric going forward at the moment. I think Gladbach have not been good, but I expect to see an improved performance from them. But I still think they'll go down 4-2 to Dortmund.
Yeah, and Rune, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm expecting a 2-goal win for Dortmund, but I've gone for 3-1 win. I think, yeah, as you said, Gladbach have been very inconsistent. They will obviously be fired up to get a result with their former coach returning to Borussia Park, but I just see the away side as a stronger team here, both in terms of quality and form. So yeah, 3-1 win for Dortmund.
Good stuff, right? 2 games on Sunday then to look forward to. Bochum hosting my boys, Stuttgart. Tricky one to call this as well. Stuttgart have been in no form and injuries are not helping. So based on that fact, I'm going to go 1-1, sit on the fence. Mark?
Yeah, I think this is a big game, one of the bigger ones of the weekend. For both teams need to win this game for me, to be honest with you. But I think that Stuttgart have still got more quality. I saw enough in them against Leverkusen last week to think that they can get a win in this game. I'm going to go for 2-1 to the away side here.
Lovely. Yeah, and Rune, what do you reckon to this?
Yeah, I've gone for the same result as Mark this time. Yeah, obviously, as you said, 2 teams that are not in great form. Bochum will be looking to bounce back from that last week's trashing at Allianz Arena, and I think they have made some mistakes in recent weeks that you just can't make at this level. They also made some terrible defensive mistakes against Hertha. So I think with the technically good players Stuttgart have offensively, they could cause that defense a lot of trouble. So yeah, a 2-1 win for the away side.
Excellent. And then, yeah, last game of the weekend sees Freiburg hosting Augsburg. See a critical and vital win for the away side last week, but I don't think they'll back it up. That's obviously the ultimate test against a team that have had an impressive start to the season, which I think that will continue. They have actually dropped a little bit, Freiburg, in terms of performance level. So I think they'll want to get back on the horse, and they will do so with a 2-1 home win.
Yeah, I think this is a fixture that suits Augsburg for me, the good old defensive stalwarts that are Augsburg. I think Freiburg like playing in games when they're second favourites. If you look at the games that they've won this season, obviously against Dortmund and against Stuttgart away from home, they were brilliant in those 2 games, but they struggled to break down some of the more defensively resolute sides. So I've actually gone for a 1-1 draw here because I think Augsburg will continue their slight improvement in recent weeks.
Yeah, finally, Rune, last say on the predictions for this week.
Yeah, I've gone for a 2-1 win for Freiburg. This one, I read that this is their last game at the Schwarzwald Stadium, so I think they will be pretty fired up to win their last home game here. And they haven't lost a game this season. Augsburg are coming off a surprising win over Gladbach, but haven't won an away game since February. So my bet is a narrow win for Freiburg in their last home game at Schwarzwald Stadium.
Excellent stuff. Well, that brings an end to Petre and Pundits Predict. So that's our predictions for match week 6. Let's now, we've got a good 15 minutes or so to really crack on with some fantasy football stuff. So in a minute, we'll go to Rune with a couple of our different sections, obviously for a bit of a focus on fantasy football. Before we do so, let's check out how the 3 of us are doing in the respective Bulinews and OTB league. Obviously, there's about 350 odd people at the moment in the league. It's growing and growing, which is brilliant. So obviously, you can see there, Mark, 166th. He's dropped a little bit. I mean,
it's a lot.
I don't know why I'm smiling because I'm lower than you anyway. Only just. And then Rune is sitting pretty. He's gone up from around 7th to up to 3rd. So we all know who's the expert in the room here, don't we? Or on Zoom. So without further delay, let's get on to it and kind of get into the section that we like to call Who's Hot and Who's Shot. So Rune, we'll fire it over to you. Do you want to maybe just give us a few headlines, like a few players that you might expect to see feature, really well in match week 6, and then maybe a few players to chuck out your team as well?
Yeah. Well, in terms of who to invest in, I think that there's a lot of value in RB Leipzig with the 2 upcoming home games against rather weak opposition. I know they've not been that impressive, but I'm backing them to win these 2 games and pick up a lot of points. And they have a lot of exciting attacking players. In particular, Dominik Szoboszlai, I think, is a name that should be on your radar this week. he's been the most scoring Leipzig asset until now, and he's a bit cheaper than Olmo and Nkunku. So I think he has a lot of potential. On the negative side, he's a slight rotation risk because, I mean, who's going to start the upcoming game against Hertha with Emil Forsberg also pushing to start? So that's one thing to consider. I'd say Nkunku is probably a bit more safe starter than Szoboszlai, but it depends on whether you're willing to gamble and pick the less expensive player, who I believe is just as capable of scoring big this week. I also think it could be time to switch our focus back to Angelino after a quite disappointing start to the season. He has only scored 1 point so far, but I've read that Leipzig have been experimenting with a 3-man back line, and this could see him move to the wing back again and swing in some crosses for Andres Silva, hopefully to get him going as well. I'm sure Leipzig are hoping to get him started. So maybe, I mean, it's a huge gamble because Angelino is so expensive, but we know he has this high ceiling. So definitely Leipzig would be a team I would recommend investing in. Also, some of the informed teams that we talked about, Leverkusen and FC Köln, are looking exciting. I mean, Florian Wirtz, if you don't already own him, then it's probably time to get him in your side. You already mentioned him a few weeks ago, Rory, actually, that you felt you had this gut feeling that he would really get going in the weeks to come. And yeah, you were absolutely right about that. So I think he's like a must-have player at the moment, the way he's been performing and with the fixtures he has until the international break.
Good stuff.
So those are like Freiburg. Obviously, also have a few nice games, but it's all about who you're going to buy. Because if you had Grifo last week, or if you had Wu Young in your team, then you would be disappointed because they started on the bench. They'll probably come on the start this time, but yeah, I find it kind of hard to like predict who's really going to score big from Freiburg. Maybe Christian Günther is the safest choice because he always picks up a quite high amount of points every week. He's not like the player with the highest ceiling, I think, but he's picking up like 8-10 points regularly. So he'd be a pretty safe pick in defense.
Good stuff. And so if we're kind of looking at players or teams that you may want to maybe move away from. So, for example, I threw in Südderby for a couple of games whilst obviously Hertha were playing the likes of Bochum and Fürth, and he did okay. Obviously, he scored goals against Bochum. Bit more disappointing against Fürth. So is it maybe a time now to chuck some of those Hertha players if they've got a harder run of games coming up now?
Yeah, I'd say so. Personally, I'll be inclined to sell Serda with the games they have coming up and with the options you have in the same price range. I just don't think it makes sense to keep your Hertha assets, especially because I don't think they've been that impressive. They only barely won those games and really without impressing. I mean, those Serda goals came out of nowhere, and it's not like he has been super present apart from those goals. So Hertha would be one of the sides I would be tempted to get rid of. Other sides are Frankfurt and Gladbach, I'd say. Frankfurt maybe with the exception of Filip Kostic. I mean, he always picks up points, so he's pretty safe and fixture proof. But apart from him, I think the way they've played and the price tags they have, it doesn't really make sense when you consider who you could get for the same amount of coins. And with Gladbach, they have a few rather difficult fixtures until the international break, facing Dortmund this time, and also they're pretty expensive. So probably if you have the likes of Lars Stindl in your side, then I would really consider selling and maybe bring in some of those Leipzig assets I talked about earlier.
Good stuff. Well, we should probably ask Mark who he's got in his midfield, because he was stating earlier how he needs to chop and change. So you just probably need to listen to who's in my team and then do the opposite, basically.
Yeah, I had Endo in there actually. Yeah, the Stuttgart midfielder, and I think obviously last season he was an absolute live wire. Really, he got a lot of assists, especially. And I think especially my reasoning for putting him in there is because he gets forward a lot, and he's kind of the key midfielder really for me in that Stuttgart side. But it just hasn't worked out for him in Stuttgart really, to be honest. And I thought last week I'll give him one more game. And I think he only picked up 5 or 6 points, which is kind of below par, really, especially for an attacking midfielder, really. So, yeah, also Goretzka, to be honest, last week he did a lot better, though, Goretzka. Yeah, last week he had a good week, but before that, he was really, really disappointing me. And to be honest, I think if he didn't have a good week last week, I would have probably canned him, to be honest with you. Yeah. But one other name I've got to mention as well is Schlotterbeck from Freiburg. He's done really, really well for me, actually. He's had a really, really good start to the season, the Freiburg defender. I think he's been brilliant. I think he's got a few goals and also just generally been class, hasn't he? He gets forward. He's a threat on corners and set plays. I think along with Ginter, he's also probably worth sticking in there as well. Definitely for me. Anyway, he's been also Baumann, also the Hoffenheim goalkeeper, has actually done pretty okay for me as well as a bargain kind of. I think he only costs 7 million. I think there's 10 goalkeepers that are worth more than him, and he's done okay, to be fair. Probably partially to do with the fact that Hoffenheim's defense isn't exactly great, is it? And they do ship a lot of chances, so it allows him a chance to make saves. So he could be a possible discount goalkeeper as well if you want to avoid the kind of main guys like your Galatzis and your Neuers, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rune, just a quick question actually with regards to the game and how it works throughout the season for those who are maybe new to the game, including myself. Do players' prices fluctuate throughout the season based on performance? So, for example, a cheaper player who then has a breakout season then becomes a top end price, or someone who is top price and has a really poor season, do they drop in value?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so it's all about buying players before they are on the rise, and then trying to get them out of your team before they drop value again. So yeah, like we told about with some of the Hertha players, if you picked up Serda a few weeks ago, then now would be a good time to sell him and maybe go for a player that you expect to rise in value in the weeks to come.
Good stuff. Would you target any players that come to mind that you think might be good value now and then eventually will start to look a bit too pricey even for the most extravagant managers out there?
Well, in terms of who could rise in value, I've thought a bit about Stuttgart, because with Borna Sosa, for example, he had a really good opening game of the season, and then he hasn't been able to live up to that performance. But yeah, he picked up 28 points just from one game, so we know that he can really perform. And with games against Bochum and Hoffenheim coming up before the international break, then it might be a good idea to look his way again, because he's dropped a bit of value in recent weeks, and he could be one of those players who could be on the rise. And I see the same thing with some of their offensive players. Actually, I've been considering Omar Mamouche, the Wolfsburg loanee. I think he's been a really good signing for them so far. He's looked really promising up front, and they've really been lagging that striker up front with Kalaitis out injured for so long. And he's already picked up 23 points from 2 games. And considering he costs just 3.5 million, then I think he offers a lot of potential at a low price, and he's by far the best bargain striker for me at the moment. So if you're backing Stuttgart to get back on track against Bochum and Hoffenheim, which I think they're capable of, then they could certainly be a team to target, and you don't have to spend that much money to get in some of their really good assets actually.
Good stuff. And then we'll just move on to again the next part of the fantasy chat that we have, which is start 'em or sit 'em. So this is kind of where we asked Rune a bit more about the kind of more intricacies, the differentials and things like that with regards to fantasy football. So, for example, the games that happen on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and how to captain your team best. So, Rune, leave it with you. And are there any particular things that stand out to you at the moment with regards to players that you may want to highlight, potential captains and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Bayern play on Friday night is kind of interesting because you'll be able to see the lineup, and they might want to rest a few players, as we talked about earlier, for the Champions League game in midweek, which could lead to some alternative names starting. So it's all about like checking out their lineup before making your transfers. And I mean, Lewandowski is the obvious captain pick, but if you're looking to like for a differential pick, I think Leroy Sané is a quite interesting pick at the moment with the way he's played. I mean, he's picked up 30 points from his last 2 games and now has a standalone fixture on Friday against Greuther Fürth. So he could be like a cheeky differential pick to choose. And I think you could double up on Bayern if you really fancy them to like beat Fürth comfortably. I think bringing in Sané alongside Lewandowski would make sense. But yeah, I mean, it's as in previous weeks about like having players that play on Friday, having players that play on Saturday, having players that play on Sunday, so you can change your team during the match day and change your captain picks as well. I mean, that Leipzig game on Saturday will probably be one of those games where you will consider, for instance, if you captained Goretzka or Kimmich in midfield for the Friday night game that Bayern are going to play, then you have to consider whether it makes sense to change that captain pick to, for instance, Szoboszlai or Nkunku. So that's the thing with Bayern playing on a Friday night. It will lead to it could lead to a bit of headache as for whether to like abandon your Bayern captain. I mean, you have to assess whether the games that come later that match day, if there are any players that will be able to like beat the Lewandowski's points tally or Kimmich's points tally. So with regard to that could be a bit tricky, I think.
Good stuff. Well, we've only got about 3 minutes until we kind of have to close up. So what we'll have to do in mind, and what's come across in some of the comments that we've had in previous shows, is that maybe if we can each week highlight 3 to 5 players to bring in and ship out, and then we'll be able to put them in our banners and for everyone to see. Because sometimes it's quite easy to miss these things as we're chatting away. So we'll try and do that in the future so that it's more visual for everyone to see in terms of what players to bring in and who to take out. But Rune, very thorough as always. Thank you very much for that. Obviously, make sure you do listen to Rune. Go over to Bulinews, of course, because that's who we're in partnership with doing this Thursday show. Rune, I presume you've got all your regular articles out with regards to the previews of Match Week 6.
Yeah, I do. So please go and have a look if you want to read more about my fantasy tips. And we have a few articles coming out tomorrow as well. Our weekly Scout Squads article and our must-haves and differentials. So yeah, check out the site before the transfer deadline tomorrow for some more fantasy stuff.
Perfect. Top man, Rune. Mark, over to you. Shall we close? And we'll probably finish bang on time.
Absolutely, yeah. So remember to check out the Twitter page as well, at Over the Bar FB, and also we got at the Over the Bar Extra as well now. Yeah. By the way, the Twitter page is back up and running now. Obviously, I think we mentioned on Monday that we had a few problems with that, but yeah, everything's back up and running with that. And also remember to check out our main site as well, which is obviously otbfootball.net, which is like the centerpiece of our work. Obviously, also remember to hit subscribe because that helps us to produce more and more stuff as well. And to also obviously like the videos as well, which also helps us out. And yeah, also remember to stay, obviously, in like 1 minute's time or something, we've got the League 2 show as well. So yeah, so remember to check out and watch that as well, especially you League 2 fans. So yeah, it's been great. Thanks a lot to Rune for joining us again, and we'll see you guys again with the recorded show on Monday. So yeah, see you then, guys.
See ya.
Cheers all.